You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice DPS because you're a twat. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Bum, 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 ba, bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Oh god, I'm still on camera. Ah! Yes, indeed, folks. You're in the blue, please. You're on cynicalbrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. You know, I kind of like this studio cam thing. What do you reckon, folks? Shall we do this all the time? I need a backdrop, man. I also need a hat. See, so there's been rumours that I am sort of partially bald. Now, that's not entirely true. However, I do have thinning hair. As you can see, I will point it to the camera. There you go. See? Thinning hair. You want to know what that is, ladies and gentlemen? That is a solar panel for a sex machine. Hey. Right, so let's do it. Let's do blue, please! Ha! If you're not already in the chat room for the IRC and cam party thing, there's we've got a wall of 12 people on cam here. I assume that's probably the limit at the moment. We're working on expanding that. It's pretty neat, honestly. So, we'll get that sorted out. Go click the chat button at the bottom of the screen on our nav bar. I need a hat. Top hat for next week's show, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yes! And a pet Murloc. I'll invest. Oh, you will see. I need a backdrop for here. Have, lights and shiz. Smoke machine. This is the best idea in the world. Right. Let's get on with this. So, I had an experience. And that experience was in Icecrown Citadel. So, here's what happened. I went in with my guild. And our intention was to go kill some bosses. So, we looked at it, and we thought, we've got this new buff now. 5%. So you got the 5% buff for certain things, like, say, your healing, your damage, and your stamina. So, you're a little bit tougher, you're a little bit stronger, and things like that. Which is cool. So we wondered, well, are we going to use this or not? Well, we decided we're not going to use it for progress at all. However, we will use it for just getting the farm content out of the way. Just getting it out of the way as quickly as possible. So we started off. And we encountered first the nerfed Marrowgar. Yes, they nerfed Marrowgar of all things. Come on! They took all of the threat mechanic out of it. It is the worst thing. Absolutely disgraceful in every possible way. Good lord. So, we did that, and we did Death Whisper, and then things started to fall apart. And you know what we realized? Well, at least this is what I realized. This is what I believe. Now, I may be wrong. It is entirely possible that I am utterly wrong about this. However, I think that because of this buff, people were unfocused and they absolutely screwed everything up. And it happened, really. We ran up against Rotface and hit a goddamn brick wall. For no good reason. Rotface is on farm. We had issues with Sourfang. We had people die on the freaking airship. The airship! It's unbelievable. This hasn't happened in forever. It's an absolute joke. So, I came to this conclusion. And I want to try and support this with some anecdotal evidence and a bit of ranting and possibly talking louder than you. That's my debating technique and I'm sticking to it. So, I think that whenever you nerf content like that, the focus of your raid deteriorates. And you know what happens when it deteriorates? What happens is that you start sucking more. You make the content suck more, and in proportion, your raid sucks more to match the level of suck. It's like osmosis. Yep. So if you've got liquid on one side of a membrane, then it will permeate the membrane, assuming that the membrane can be permeated, and it will try and balance the liquid on both sides. So this is suck osmosis, or as I like to call it, suckmosis. So your content is here, and I will represent it with this picture of a starship. This is your content. This is a visual gimmick. If you're not watching the cam, then sucks to be you. And this is a series of Borg cubes. And I am in the middle of said Borg cubes. So, this is your content, and this is your raid. So, my content currently sucks this much. Now, my raid sucks this much. So it's low, see? Now, they will proportionally get closer and closer and closer until they match. And you want to know why I believe that? Because it's all about the psychology of it. Since raiding is a social experience, there is a psychological element involved in the management of a team. Yeah? There are certain techniques which work to encourage the team, and there are certain techniques that work to discourage the team. Naturally, you want to try and avoid those that discourage, and you want to promote those that encourage. So what happens when you nerf the content? Well, for one thing, you dishearten anyone that's looking for a challenge. Yes. So, the reason I've seen so many dumb wipes in Naxxramas by people who should know better is really quite simple. Here is the reason, ladies and gentlemen. The reason is because nobody cares. Nobody gives a damn about the content in question, so they are not going to focus on it at all. Which is why they do stupid crap, like dying in the safety dance, dying on Thaddeus, and other such nonsense. There is the problem. It's nonsense. So, let's talk about what it does to people in ICC. How much difference does a 5% buff in damage, healing, and stamina make to you? What fights would that really benefit you on? So, obviously, every fight goes down faster. So, what elements are there in the fight that would make a difference? Well, the first one that really made a difference was Sourfang. Yeah? Sourfang with 5% is a big deal. It is. Because you kill him faster, that means less risk of a mark and all good stuff like that. You know what happened during Sourfang? He gained more blood power than he did in the last 4 attempts. You want to know why? Because people slacked off. And you want to know why they slacked off? I can tell you why they slacked off. Because they were buffed and they felt complacent about the content. They ceased to care. It's like, this is easy, we don't have to focus. So what happened? People got bit by the blood beasts. We don't get bit by the blood beasts. We're perfectly set up to stop that from happening. But people were too slow. They slacked off on DPS. Indeed, they probably did less DPS in that encounter than they did in the previous week's encounter where they had worse gear and no buff. I kid you not. It is the case. Think about it. Insane, really, isn't it, when you think about it? But it makes sense. So, Sourfang, there's the difference. Rotface. How many things can go wrong on Rotface? Let's see. Not running to the correct place. Ending up in the slime. Getting killed by the oozers. Worst thing, getting 2 big oozers at the same time. Yes, it's doable, ladies and gents, if you're not concentrating. And that, of course, is a combined issue with not only the person running with the disease on him, but the person doing the dispelling. You know what? We ended up with 2 oozers multiple times. We ended up with people running into goo. People not moving out of the way of slime spit. People not moving out of the way of the exploding oozers. Unbelievable. We are on the Dreamwalker boss. Yeah? We are on Dreamwalker. As in, we are past the Blood Queen. We are past the Blood Princes. Yes, them. We are past Putricide. As in, these supposedly harder bosses. And yet, we can't get out of the way on Rotface. And why is that? Because we're all acting like retards. And why are we acting like retards, ladies and gents? Because of the buff. The more boring and the less challenging you make content, the less people will focus on said content. Hence the reason why nerfing stuff is a terrible idea. Because you turn otherwise good kills into gibbering idiots. Really, you do. Why should a guild be expected to focus? Why should a guild expect to care about content that is incredibly easy? It makes one wonder, honestly. Who is this a benefit for? Because it's not a benefit for any progression guild. Progression guilds don't want the content to be easier. They don't. And why would they? They want to progress in a way that is meaningful. They want to progress in a way that can be seen as a accomplishment, a real achievement, as opposed to those fake merit badges that you've got to love your bloody thing. Oh, that's what they want. They want a real challenge, and they can't have it. Why? Because you put in this stuff. You really do. So, you know what? We're never going to enable this buff again. Now, I know it's optional. It annoys me more so than anything that players aren't rewarded for doing the content in the right way. I'm glad you're able to turn it off, don't get me wrong, that's a start, but why aren't people rewarded for doing it the right way? I don't understand. It's the concept of obsoleting content too quickly. TOC, obsolete. Why is it obsolete, ladies and gentlemen? Because you can get that level gear from running Heroic Agile Narub. Why go there? Why go to TOC? The only benefit of going to TOC is to go TOC 25 hard and get some gear from there, and even then, that ain't that great. Not anymore. It's too easy to clear through ICC and drown yourself in tier 10 level epics anyway. Why bother? Obsoleted so fast. Ulduar, obsolete. Naxxramas, obsolete. Well, we can be glad to see the back of that one. But even I would argue that Naxxramas was obsolete before it even came out. It was too easy from the very start, and that's why players didn't care. The kind of guild that is going to benefit from this buff is the kind of guild that is not properly motivated to kill the content anyway. So one has to wonder how you are motivating these guilds to go through this content. You're leading them on with the promise of purples, easy purples. That's it. You know what? That is a paper-thin promise. It is. It's a paper-thin promise. Why would anyone go for that? Well, there are some guilds that will, no doubt about that. But one makes me wonder, while gear is important, and while gear is a part of the risk-reward system, when you take the risk out of it, and I've said this many times before, but it rings true every time, when you take the risk out of risk-reward, you are left with reward for nothing. Yeah? But you're being given something for nothing, which means you didn't earn it. The kinds of guilds and the kinds of players that want this easy loot are the kind of people that you don't want raiding anyway. Why feed them through this content? Why take something away from the accomplishments and achievements of good players for guys that really don't actually want to raid anyway? They don't. If they wanted to raid, they would have the determination to kill the bosses the proper way. It's as simple as that. They don't want to raid. What they want is the path to the easiest epics. Do you really think they wanted to PvP? Back in the days when arenas were the best way to get epics? No, they didn't. They didn't want competition. They wanted easy wins. They wanted epics. That's all they wanted. It's a means to an end for them. They don't care about the content. You think, oh, well, I want everyone to see the content. They don't care. You could give them a sack of loot, and they would be fine with that too. You don't have to design an entire instance for those people. Just send them an epic in the mail every week. They'll be happy. It's sad, but true. So you know what? I would recommend to everyone to turn this buff off. If you think it makes farming a little bit easier, then consider the fact that actually that's not a good thing. You don't want your farm content to be easier. Any more than it already is. You want to be on your toes, you want to be awake. You will have more fun in an encounter if it constantly challenges you. Of course, very few of these exist, but why go out of your way to make sure that number's even smaller? Why? Why would you do this? I don't know. Now, players will say, of course, that A, not in the hard modes. I don't know if this is 100% true, honestly, because I heard rumours that it was in the hard modes, and that might be the case. I don't know. However, I will say this. If hard mode players are really using this, then they're using it for one reason alone, and that's to min-max, and that's fine. But I can bet you that they are not happy about it. They have to. They have to do it to compete for the world first. I think once the world first and the realm first are out of the way, players will stop using it. Maybe. Maybe not. It's how long do you want good players to stay interested in your dungeon, as opposed to how long do you want bad players to stay in your dungeon that don't really want to be there anyway. That's the question. If you want to extend your content, why obsolete it so quickly? There's the question for you. We know the Ruby Sanctum's not going to be a replacement. It's going to be a Mazrigo, what the hell? A Malagos-style boss. It's going to be a Sartharian-style boss. It's not a full set of raid content. That's not going to obsolete ICC. You're obsoleting it already, what, 8 months before expansion launch? What? I can't even fathom that. That doesn't even make any sense to me. I don't know if it does for anybody else. It's insane. You're listening to Blue Please here on cynicalprint.com by Self-Taught Biscuit. I'll be back after the break to talk a little bit about the Bloodwing of ICC. Is there anything good in there? Well, I shall see. I want to play some Devon Townsend for you. Something fun, something interesting. Do I play his band? Or do I play some strapping young lad? That is a good question. And a question I will happily answer you right now. This, ladies and gentlemen, is All Hail the New Flesh. It contains some strong language. Enjoy.